ideation process, a facilitated process where we're going to guide them through essentially brainstorming around what does transformation mean specifically at their company, and what operations are specifically amenable to being completely transformed. You know, Raj and I have this conversation all the time, and we ask ourselves, why didn't Yellow Cab come up with the idea for Uber?
Right, what a mess.
Why didn't Hilton Hotels come up with the idea for Airbnb? I'll tell you why. Because they had no organized, systematic way to start to scan their own landscape and figure out how to disrupt themselves. Ideation is what we're calling it, is going to help them do that. So that's part of our service line. The other is the lecture series that I mentioned earlier. Also business modeling. We're going to build lots of models. We feel like models, simulation models, optimization models, are the lens through which companies need to start looking at themselves. The idea essentially is that you take a company and you build a replica of that company in the computer. And now you can poke and prod on that replica in ways that reveal insights about how the company should perform. But you don't stop there. Once you have those insights, now you can bring those insights to the enterprise systems, places where you all are experts. And you can now start to bake those insights into systems that are used every single day. This is the holy grail that companies are looking for. They want to implement elegant strategy, but they also want to enforce, if you will, that strategy into work that they do every day. And companies struggle with that. We can help them. We now have all the ingredients to take that end to end. And business modeling is a key service that is a component of that. Blockchain is another thing. We think it's prominent. There's a lot of hype around blockchain. We're going to be the partners for companies to help cut through all of that hype and tell them what's real and what's not. So we're looking at partnerships with other firms possibly to help us give that kind of advice on a blockchain design that's appropriate to that particular organization. Blockchain is coming. We have an affinity for the Ethereum platform, although we're trying to be platform agnostic, but that seems to be the one that is sort of emerging as the front runner, particularly since it has smart contracts. And we're using the Ethereum platform on our project, Project VATSI. And then finally, I've had these comments with you before, but I'll just emphasize them one more time. Automation. Automation is a key feature that's coming in the next 3 to 4 years. Companies are going to move beyond this concept of data science. That's just going to be what everybody does, just as table stakes. On to the next wave, which is how do we automate this company to the maximum extent? How do we take as much labor content out of what we do and make our company a lot more efficient in that sense? Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to work for companies and automate them so that they can fire everybody. Frankly, I've never had a conversation with senior executives about that. It's more about taking the people that I have, and I have 3,000 people, and keeping those 3,000 people, but making those 3,000 people do 3 times the work, or 5 times the work, or 10 times the work that they could do before. Not firing anybody, but using automation, technology, as a leverage into a higher performing organization. So automation is also in this tapestry of words that we need to start using with our clients. And if you hear about anything about their sort of headed toward a discussion around automation, they're concerned about labor content, particularly in the oil and gas industry that is struggling with $50 oil. How are they going to succeed in $50 oil? Well, you know what? Back in as recently as, say, 2004, a barrel of crude oil was about $26. So they survived then. Why can't they survive now? Well, because their cost structure has just gotten out of control. And now that cost structure is being brought back in line. But that's not easy to do. But one way that they can do that is through automation. So if you're sitting in an oil and gas company or a services company related to the oil and gas industry, there are conversations that are being had about automation. automation, and our appeal to you is to try to pick up on those conversations wherever possible. So our new vocabulary is around things like modeling and simulation and optimization and visualization, which is a key part of the whole sort of modeling cluster. But the other thing too that, oh, I see, so let me show you this. So that means, I think I should be sort of wrapping up, so I will do that. But the other thing that we need to start steering our clients toward is this idea of taking on a more experimentalist viewpoint on the work that they do. Now you all have a lot of experience working with companies very sort of rigid, we produce these widgets and that's what we do. Well, that's all well and good. But going forward, companies are gonna have to be a lot more agile than that. They're gonna have to be a lot more innovative than that. And you can't just say the word innovation and you become innovative. You actually have to put some work and tools behind it. So one part of the lexicon needs to be around this idea of a sandbox. A sandbox. Sandbox is a place where a compute area, where people can build models and experiment and stand up certain structures and work with data and find out what's going on, do some exploratory analysis. But very few companies, even sophisticated large companies, don't have these sandboxes, and we're trying to sort of steer them in that direction as quickly as possible. Now, I will now advance my slide. Some wins and recent wins. So we've got MCOR. MCOR is an interesting